I'm Ian. I'm a business development lead at TENTUPLAY. And in today's session, I'll be sharing the definitions and basic process of creating personalized in-game offers. After a talk, you should have the basic knowledge regarding how to collect in-game data and segment players and tailor personalized offers to each player.
Cool. Sounds very interesting. And remember, everyone that is listening, gather up your questions, and we will have a Q&A session after Ian has finished his talk.
Awesome. We're really looking forward to it. So I'll start right away.
Yeah, sweet. I'll just add your presentation.
Okay.
Right.
So I hope you guys can all see my screen here. So the essentials to a successful game, there would be just two essentials. First would be to acquire new players who are willing to try out your game. And secondly, you need those players to be invested in your game as much as possible. This is what we each call user acquisition and user retention and conversion. So let's start off with user acquisition. It is often done through paid advertising using platforms and services such as Google Ads, Unity Ads, Facebook Ads, and so on. This is where the most of the marketing budget is spent on. But apparently there are clear limitations to just relying on user acquisition. According to AppFlyer's analysis, $48.5 billion will be allocated for UA globally in 2022, which is double the amount confirmed in 2019. And the competition is even more fierce for mobile games, since being discovered in the first place is a great challenge. More than 57% of installs among gaming apps are non-organic, and this quickly becomes unsustainable if the players refuse to stay or make a purchase. Also, the other limitations of UA is that it does not promise a strong return on investment, since many of the most recent games have free-to-play model. And any F2P game developer would agree that if users enter the game but do not spend at all or stay long enough, the game cannot be sustained. And in fact, D30 retention can be as low as 2.3%, which falls far below our expectations. So simply getting players to install the game is not enough. And what is user retention and conversion, and how can we benefit from it? It is basically taking care of existing users through LiveOps, such as CS, debugging, updating content, hosting in-game events, segmenting players, and sending promotions and offers. Personalized offers that I'll be talking about in this session focuses on behavioral segmentations of players and tailoring appropriate promotions and offers to each player. So, why should we care about user retention and conversion? As you can see from a simple equation for calculating revenue, user acquisition only takes part in increasing the monthly active user. On the other hand, user retention and conversion can keep the MAU high, increase the paying user rate, and even increase the average revenue per paying user. So across all three factors that build revenue, taking care of existing players has a vital role. Also, it is 5 times cheaper than UA than it is to invest in user retention and conversion, which means that your return on investment can dramatically increase if you allocate a portion of the finance you have planned to spend on paid advertising to LiveOps. So let's get into the main part. What is personalized offer? In-game offers are generally promotions or deals a game studio will send to players throughout the play session. It can showcase the newest release item, a temporary discount item, or maybe even some tips to earn additional currency. To personalize these in-game offers means to send different offers to different players in terms of maximizing conversion. This technique is common in any e-commerce or marketing-heavy industries, but is only starting to gain interest in the gaming arena recently. These offers can also help players overcome hurdles, help build stronger gameplay, or even fulfill individual desire and expectations. And satisfied players lead to higher retention and conversion rate, that in all increases the lifetime value. How TENTUPLAY does personalized offers is by segmenting players by player persona. which stands for unique player characteristics such as play motivation, needs, and interests. Now I will share with you an overview of how this can be done. So the juicy part that I believe that you have all been waiting for is the 3 steps to behavioral segmentation and personalization. First, you would have to collect data on player events, then segment players based on their play styles, and lastly, recommend tips, items, and strategies accordingly. But we'll start off by talking about how we will collect data. It is vital that you collect data in a well-structured and carefully thought-out format. I personally call this the 4W1H data logging method, where 4W1H stands for who, when, where, what, and how. If you see event 1 in the table, who is the player, and when is the local time of the player, where is a specific space or event where an action takes place, what is the action itself, and how is the context behind the action. This lets us know for event 1 that player AAA today at 5:21 p.m. won stage 12 by equipping level 5 sword, a level 50 sword. The following events, in chronological order, event 2, 3, and 4, are logged in the same format. We do this because we want to know why a player does a certain action. For example, if a player has bought an ice-resistant armor consuming 1,000 gold, we want to know what drove him to purchase this specific item. Did he need a stronger equipment or wanted to build a full set of armor? Or did he wish to beat a friend in a PvP battle? And all of this can be proven and known through the time series data. So by logging 4W1H data over time for each player, we learn the context behind each action, which allows us to understand the player holistically. For example, a slice of 4W1H would only tell you about the results, which should be purchasing a certain item. Here it would be the ice-resistant armor. But a time series data lets you know what happened before the purchase, which is going to be the biggest clue to the motivation behind the purchase. I brought a simple example here. We have a use currency method that we often use to log 4W1H data. It tells you that player XYZ that is playing as character ABC today at 5:21 p.m. leveled up Sword of Magic equipment at the sword shop using 50 gold. This method is connected to the level up method, as you can see from the where to entity, which can give you a more in-depth information on the action of leveling up the equipment. So if you see the connected method level up equipment, here you can see that the Sword of Magic has been leveled up from level 10 to level 11. If you believe that this kind of information can be useful when you're creating personalized offers, you should log such information as well. So in TENTUPLAY's case, we utilize over 80 methods that can log almost every event that happens within a game using the same 4W1H logging method. You can choose which methods are relevant to your game and adopt them accordingly, and it will be able to record the entire life cycle of each player. So a few examples here would be change custom ability, play stage with infrastructure, play stage with cosmetic, get character, and all of this can be applied to your game. So the reason why we do the 4W1H time series data is because it naturally taps into the player characteristics. It reveals the play motivations and styles of each player. So you can answer so many questions about a player that has always been under the carpet. Is this player competitive? Is this player motivated by PvPs? Is he short-tempered, or is he a spender or a potential spender? And so on. And these informations are vital for when you're segmenting your players. So now let's talk about the player segmentation. The same data logging method I just talked about, Pentaplay segments players based on their playstyles and motivations. I won't go into details about each of the segmentations, but a good takeaway here is that we are interested in what drives the player to stay or churn, and what tactics the players enjoy utilizing. As you can see here, the playstyles, there will be passive, savers, time investors, mistakes and responses, efficiency level, and strategic investments. And play motivations, there will be personal satisfaction, personal rewards, or social interaction, or public recognition. To develop such segmentation, you must create multiple models that each represents a property of a player. It can be about social tendency, maximum effort level, currency usage, time distribution, and so on. Think of these models as nucleotides, CGAT, that build human DNA. Combination of these models will define the unique characteristics for each player. Within your game, each of these models will have its own threshold, so you can appropriately assess if a player falls into the bucket or not. Then these models will be grouped in 2s or 3s, or however many you feel suitable to your segmentations. And then each of these segmentations are what we call player personas, and they're the unique genetic dispositions of your players and how they would behave and how they would make purchase and if they would stay within your game or not. So here is an example of kind of a persona that we utilize nowadays. So think about players who are deeply interested in playing your game, but are struggling due to lack of information. This type has a clearly irregular and inefficient currency usage pattern, with low social interaction and slow leveling speed than average. Players who fall into this segmentation can be best managed by recommending game content, such as quests and missions. Here it would be a blacksmith's request, a gem hunt, or 3 PvPs in one day that would reward you with XP boosts. Also, it would be a good idea to show the stat distribution, the kind of strategies or tips that the high-level players are adopting. Now let's talk about how we could recommend tips, items, and strategies according to these player personas. So I prepared 3 examples to give you an idea of how recommendations can be done. Here, the comfort zone bunker mentality. This stands for a psychological state of players who refuse to try higher level missions or other characters because they're afraid of failing or losing current status. They feel most comfortable in repeating the same playstyle and strategy, but are also fighting inner crisis of wanting to overcome boredom. In this case, it would be best to recommend a new character that seems most suitable for the player, since you want to encourage them to do more without putting too much pressure on. Also, just don't recommend a new character, but give them a proper introduction by also recommending events and quests to help them ease into the new character. Here you can see that a new character, Hafer, is recommended for a player who only uses the character Lucan. And by recommending Hafer, it also shows the new missions to recover from the inner crisis with less risk. Here you would have 5 wins with Hafer giving you 500 XPs, or 10 wins that rewards you with 1000 XPs. Second example will be collectors. Collectors are players who love to collect costumes or decorate characters, and this kind of persona is pretty popular in any kind of genre. For a card collecting RPG game, this type of players collect as many cards as possible. And for any other game with cosmetic items, this type loves purchasing equipments that are purely for aesthetics. It is important that we acknowledge and encourage their love for collection. As you can see, tell the player about their progress and achievements as a collector. Here it shows the collector score and also the percentage of top rankings. Since they are already spending more than average on cosmetics, you may not want to promote upsell too much, but it is always a good idea to show good deals related to their collection. In this image, you can see that we have given the player collector score and also the ranking, along with limited offers for characters that are missing in the collection. The last example will be the rabid PvP players. These are the ones that are motivated by in-person battles. They're less interested in daily missions or PvE stages, but are almost entirely looking to play with other players. Your primary recommendation for them should be about increasing their win rate by delivering popular combinations or strategies. If the player needs a boost with an in-app purchase, slide it in as well so that the players have all the options they need to win the next battle. Here in the image, you can see that we have identified the player's individual motivations and provided tips to achieve what the player wants. Also, if you can see the contents down, the recommended contents, it is personally tailored suggestions and purchasing options to enhance the individual performance in their unique gameplay style. Here you have 3 different characters that are popular in the best PvP players strategies. And it also recommends in-game currency that you can purchase with real money. So I would like to go back and talk to you a little bit more about the behavioral segmentation that we do as TENTUPLAY. I believe this is what most people would be interested in. So these player personas, here you can see the personal satisfaction and personal rewards. These are the ones that are most famous in idle games. And also social interaction and public recognition are most popular in multiplayer and MMO games. Also, if you look at the playstyle part, the passive time investor players are the ones that you might want to focus on if you're creating casual games. Also, efficiency and savers and mistakes and responses and strategic investment. These are the ones that are most common in RPG games that have the most amount of contents and most amount of different characters to play with. So to wrap it all up, the collecting data part, we have talked about the 4W1H time series data logging method, which gives you the whole idea behind your players' actions. And also, you can segment players by doing multiple models that each represents a property that a player will show. Lastly, you can recommend according to these player personas by personalizing your in-game offers, in-game promotions to each kind of play styles and play characteristics. So TENTUPLAY does this behavioral segmentation and personalized promotions and offers under what we believe in is that provide the right offer to the right player at the right time. So it is very important that you bring what the player needs and what the player is interested in right to their fingertips to increase the conversion rate. So I hope you have taken away some important information from this talk, and thank you for having me.
Thank you a lot, Ian. That was a very good talk. Thought it was very interesting with a parallel to human DNA, to how to classify all the players. Yep. Should we see if we have some questions, maybe? Let's see. Okay, there is one here, but here there are a few. I don't really understand this first one, but maybe you would. How to build strong character depend on design sculpture. Do you understand what they mean by that question?
I'm not sure if that's entirely relevant to the talk. I'm not sure if I understand it correctly, but
yeah, we can skip that one if you want.
Yeah, sounds
great. This one though, I think is relevant. What is the most important in players' engagement?
So, what I believe is most important in players' engagement is actually the player is satisfied. Player needs to be satisfied with his own gameplay style. So some might say like a collector in an RPG game would be not such a good choice because a lot of the RPG players are there to like increase their ranking or go on to the next stages. But that's why when we send personalized offers, we always send some sort of acknowledgement for the unique gameplay style that he has. So I believe what's most important for player engagement is that kind of acknowledge and encourage each and every one of those play styles.
That makes sense. Let's see what we have more here. What is the benefit of making a game trying to target all types of players than to make a well-designed game for a certain user segment?
The reason why we developed these kind of solutions is because a lot of the games, a lot of the free-to-play games are interested in making a little bit more revenue from in-game purchases. And if you can see, the average of the paying users are around 5% out of the entire user base. So what we believe is that by targeting all different types of players, you can increase the engagement level and the conversion level of the long tail players. So that's why we try to target all types of player and try to satisfy individual needs.
Yeah, that makes sense. Here's another one. Is there any pushback if players notice how personalized their games are? Like if they would complain about unfair promotion or something like that?
For our clients, there has not been any complaints. It's because we don't use the dynamic pricing, which gives like different pricing offers to different players. So it's basically using the items and promotions off the shelf and just tailoring them to each player. So everyone can actually access to an equipment or a promotion, but what we do is that we're just basically tailoring it and just putting it right on the screen for them.
Right. Yeah, that sounds fair.
I mean, if there's any issue with different pricing, that could cause a lot of complaints from the player side.
Yeah, I bet it would. Let's see here. How do you deal with players who are more into FTP features but not into paying money for buying stuff in the game?
For players who play FTP but are not interested in making purchases, you kind of segment them towards the players who would not spend at all throughout their life cycle. So we will show a bit more of ads or reward ads if they're any kind of reward ads, and we would actually just try to keep them as long as possible within the game without encouraging too much in-app purchases. So for players who don't respond too well to any kind of IAP recommendations, we kind of erase out all the IAP recommendations for the following promotions.
Makes sense. Yeah, those must be the hardest ones to target because you don't get as deep data for those players. All right. Is there any Unity plugin that helps you achieve different player needs that you know of?
Is there any Unity plugin? There's no. Our service does not provide Unity plugin, but we have a Unity SDK that you can just embed into your game, and it just automatically starts collecting data from your game through the SDK. So I'm not sure if he's asking if there's an additional plugin.
Yeah, no idea. That I think that answers this pretty well. Let's see here then. What tool do you use to monitor and analyze the data that you gather?
What tools? So it's just as I said before, we use the SDK to collect the data, and we have our own console. So we do all the calculations and analysis in the back engine, and then we expose the results on the console. So
right, so it's completely your own like built
engine. Yeah, so we do it on our own level.
Nice. Let's see, were there any more? One person asked if they could ask a question, so let's see if they come up with the question that they wanted to ask.
Oh, please let them know.
Do we have any more questions here? Yeah, I don't know. It seems like that is it. if there is nothing more dropping in. Ah, here was another one popping on. What's the roadmap to make an indie game? That was
What's
a
the
very
roadmap?
general question.
So we're not game developers, so I think it would be inappropriate for us to give you a roadmap for building an indie game. But
Yeah.
I guess from my personal perspective, what's most important for indie games is the creativity that goes into it. And then after you kind of start to get new players, that's when the LiveOps tools like us will kind of kick in to give you a little bit of boost in revenue and retention. So
Yeah, I would guess that would be pretty late in that roadmap that you would.
Yeah, so it would
utilize
be a
tools
little bit
that you have.
further end of the roadmap. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right, here are some more stuff coming in. What are the main challenges in developing games for you? That is also maybe not completely relevant since you're not really doing the game
So I guess a
development.
lot of the audience thought that I have a lot of experience with game development.
Yeah,
For me,
let's we can take the next one instead. Let's see
yeah.
what we have here. What is the best monetization platform, and how can we do the best marketing for our game?
Best monetization platform. I would say for user acquisition, there are clear rankings for monetization and UA, which is like Google Ads is on the top, and then like Facebook Ads, Unity Ads, Iron Source, and it goes like that. But if you're looking for a monetization platform for LiveOps, then I would have to say we have one of the best player segmentations in the market. So that could help. I hope that helps you figure out. There are other data analytics tools out there like Delta DNA and such, but so you should kind of weigh what you believe is most important to you and see what kind of features are delivered based on the pricing packages.
Yeah.
So whichever one fits your interests and fits your budget would be the best one.
Yeah. I mean, can't be a clear winner, I guess. Then there wouldn't be any competition on the market. Let's see here then. What is the recent trend with player behaviors? Are there any new interesting behavior that you have witnessed through embedding of analytics?
For us, it was really interesting. We were pretty surprised to see that we have a segmentation called perfectionists. It's the kind of players who are interested in making the right choices. So they sometimes kind of procrastinate and worry over making the wrong choices. And this kind of behavior was often seen in RPG games, but now we're seeing them across all different types of genres. So I guess players nowadays, because there are a lot of F2P games, they're more worried about making the right purchases and which purchase is going to give them the biggest boost in the gameplay. So that's what we've seen very recently.
Interesting. Yeah, you must be able to like discover so many trends and stuff with all the data that you get.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, like, even within the same game, you can see that different personas come up and disappear throughout the game's life cycle. So
yeah,
that's one thing to keep in mind as well.
Okay, here's another one. What's the roadmap to making the personalization, since the contacts from the client to putting the changes live on the game?
Contact from the client. So RSK goes right to the client's game clients. So you can manage everything for us. I'm talking about the TENTUPLAY service. You can go to our console on the web, and it just automatically sends your players the personalized offers. And if you want to do it manually, you can also do it in our console as well. So yeah, so for our service, if you implement TENTUPLAY's SDK, you can basically manage everything on the web console.
Cool. And the SDK, is that only for Unity, or can you use it with
us, we have Unity, and we have a beta version for Unreal Engine. So if any of the developers or publishers here are using Unreal Engine and would like to try out the service, then please contact me. Then you will be the first Unreal Engine to check out TENTUPLAY.
Nice. Right. Why not make a quality game that doesn't require data collection and milking money from players like during old times?
Well, that's a good one. I'm not saying you shouldn't strive towards making quality games, but what we've seen recently is that players want a little bit more interaction with the game and a lot of faster feedbacks with the game developers. So by implementing this kind of free-to-play models and recently play-to-earn models, players are having more fun with social interactions and having more freedom in their gameplay. So I guess it's just a new trend that on top of the quality game, you might want to add a little bit more content that gives individual players more freedom and fun.
Yeah, and I feel like I don't know how far back this person is thinking about, but like back in the days, often a game was made and then it was released and then it was done. Now the game is, I mean, the life cycle of the game is so much longer. You can't just buy the game and then it's done. Okay. Oh, there is coming in a lot of questions here. Let's see here. Do you use all collected data for the game itself or even for new game your team want to develop?
For all collected data, does it mean for our internal game?
I'm not sure.
Do you use all collected data just for the game itself or even for a new game your team wants to develop?
Maybe that the data would be used like cross games or something.
Across games. So if you are a one game studio and if you have 3 different games, and if all 3 games have TENTUPLAY's SDK implemented, it is possible that you can transfer some sort of data from one project to the another and kind of have a better idea of how your players respond to your games, your studio's games. So that's possible, but we don't transfer any kind of collected data or analysis out of the studio and then use it on other studios' projects. But of course, we use the collected data to improve our system and the recommendation system. So
that makes sense.
A bit different.
Here are some terms I'm not familiar with, but maybe you are. UA-wise, do you always test in the same GEOs for every launch, or does your team prefer testing over various GEOs?
I cannot answer this question because we don't do any kind of user acquisition side solutions. So we only do the LiveOps side, and user acquisition, you would have to use other paid advertisement platforms and see what they do there. So we have nothing to do with UAs.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. Is player behavior used for training AI bots in the game? I guess that's a bit outside of your scope too.
It is, but actually it's not, because we are using a lot of the player behaviors trend analysis that we have collected over time to build AI NPCs and bots. And it's kind of our side project that's going on right now. So whoever asked that question,
they have some insight.
Yeah, so that's the roadmap for us.
Oh, that's very cool. That will be very interesting, I think. Okay. How do segmentation of players in an arcade environment work?
We've never collected data from an arcade environment, so it'd be a bit. I believe the input would be a bit different, but as long as we kind of get the structured format to come into our engine, I believe the analysis part would be pretty similar.
Yeah. Wouldn't certain player archetypes gravitate towards certain types of games? How does personalization work out for games where one player type is dominant?
It is true that there are games where just one or two player type is dominant. And what we do is that even within the same persona, we give them different rankings, and we see them by their retention habits or purchasing habits, and we try to kind of break them down as much as possible, so that at least more than half or 70% of players get different personalized offers.
Cool. Does personalization of collected data create more production? Example, more unique cosmetic types for a collector. Would that decrease the return of investment?
I mean, I believe it really depends on the studio if they want to do more, create more items or create more content for a specific type of player persona or player segmentation. So if you believe a certain persona, such as a collector, is dominant in your game and they respond very well to the personalized offers, then I believe it'll be a great idea for you to kind of focus on that persona and create more content. And I don't think that would decrease the ROI.
All right. Here is a double question. Let's see. Did you notice any cases where after a certain time a persona or player consistently becomes another persona?
Yes, it is true. It is very actually this is very it is a very common case that a player comes into the game with a certain persona, and then as he plays the game for a month or two, their persona changes throughout the process. So yeah, the good thing about our personalization engine is that our models adapt to player lifecycle and player journey as they go throughout the game. So it'll be able to detect any changes in the persona group.
Right. And here was the second part of that. For example, a player play for personal satisfaction, but it evolves into playing for social interactions. So,
yeah, that happens often as well. There's personal satisfaction pivoting towards the social interactions as they make more friends and get more information about the game.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go with the last question here. How do you gauge the value of bundles or items in games? And for events/holiday specials, how much can you reduce the price to keep a profit? Or is it more aimed to build hype than make profit?
I would have to say it is more aimed towards building the hype, and also actually it is aimed towards making more profit as well. But the thing is, we don't do dynamic pricing. We do not actively reduce the price or give this different discount percentage for each bundles. So it'll be a developer side that they want to, if there's an item A or a bundle A, and if you want to put it in 3 different price categories, then we can actually pull those items and use it in our personalized offers and see which one works best.
Yeah,
so, but we don't actively make changes to the price.
Yeah, that'll be up to the studio then, I guess. Oh, that one came back again. Let's. What? Oh, there we go. Okay, I think our time for Q&A is up. Thank you a lot, Ian. It was a lot of very interesting talk and a lot of interesting questions and answers.
Yeah, there are a lot of really good questions. I'm glad that you guys have enjoyed the talk.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Lucas.
Have a good day.